for Global Business Update. Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Good morning, Michael.
Morning. Asia Pacific shares mostly higher on Wednesday, even though the reading for China's November factory activity fell short of expectations. The reason that Hong Kong and the rest of it is slightly higher is because China's health officials have announced vaccination for older people, vaccination measures for older people to boost those, and that is seen to be a very important indicator for the reopening of the Chinese economy, even given their COVID lockdowns. And just to add to that, iPhone maker Foxconn in what's called iPhone City is trying to entice angry workers back as Apple is experiencing a supply crunch. It could be affected by between 5 to 8 million units in the December quarter as a result of the disruptions happening there. Foxconn said today that it would give a 500 yuan, which is a $70 payment to returning workers, and a 3,000 yuan bonus for those who stay more than 30 days, and a 6,000 yuan January bonus. Nevertheless, Apple is still, as I've said before, often on this program, still looking to make more phones in India and the rest of Asia. To the United States, and what we're seeing there is basically things fairly flat ahead of the Fed Chair Jay Powell giving a speech tonight, which might give a further insight into interest rate rises. Futures tied to the Dow Jones fell by about 19 points. It was a very mixed day yesterday in regular trading. Really what we look forward to now is what's happened with Cyber Monday, which was yesterday, and whether or not people actually went out to spend in the same way that they did on Black Friday. But it looks like a record $11.6 billion was actually spent on Cyber Monday. Morgan Stanley's Michael Wilson, no relation, has been saying that there could be a double-digit percentage drop in stocks in early 2023. He's saying that investors at the moment are on what is described as the doorstep of a deep pullback. He's got an S&P target for the year end of 2023, 3,900. And what he's basically saying is that corporate America will be getting to, as he puts it, unleash a lot of downward earnings revisions that will pummel stocks. And he's saying you should expect an S&P finish to the year of 2023, that's next year, between 3,000 and 3,300. I'm going to take you now from Wall Street back to London, and the Bank of England is saying that it wasn't briefed on the mini budget that Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss promoted not more than about 5 weeks ago, and so therefore, and of course the problem was then. This is Andrew Bailey talking in an interview. He was saying that actually they got no idea what was in it, so they just raised rates by 0.5%. There may be more to come. Inflation at 11.1% in October. I'm sure I don't need to remind you of those figures. So basically what he's saying is they didn't tell us what was going on. Now we've seen the true business of what's happening. Inflation's still rising, may have to raise interest rates further. So that would be well over the 3%, which they have been talking about before. Now, as part of staying with the UK, and as part of this Big Bang 2 Brexit freedom mantra that's coming out of the government, the UK is to relax ring fencing banks. Now, basically, they were ring fenced after the 2008 financial crisis in between retail and corporate activities. what the banks have been saying is, look, hang on a second. So we had since 2008, 2009, had to have two separate pots of capital cushion, basically, and now they're saying we only want one. It's hoped that the government's hoping at least that there'll be some freedom about that, because we're not now bound by EU laws at the moment, and also the authorities are stressing that they do want the financial centre of London to be a hub for crypto, not the private asset-owned crypto. That's had all the trouble about, and this is despite FTX, but a crypto hub based on fiat-backed stable coins, which is something that a lot of central banks have been looking at. Basically, a domestic problem here. What happened with the rapid rise in energy prices was that some of the providers went bust. One of them was called Bulb. It's been bid for by Octopus Energy, and it's facing a lot of opposition from E.ON, British Gas and Scottish Power, which are rival suppliers. Speaking of energy, Goldman Sachs, given what they describe as a high probability of an OPEC cut, they're meeting on Vienna, meeting in Vienna in Austria on December the 4th, which is next week, and they're deciding apparently on the next phase of production policy. So that's actually kept the oil price relatively high. Goldman's are still sticking to their $110 a barrel forecast in the coming months. Basically, all I'm saying about that, and the markets are telling me that there was a bit of a slide in the oil price because of what was happening in COVID in China. That appears to be being gradually resolved. So I think, therefore, we will see a gradual rise in the price of oil. That is the global view this morning.
All right, real quickly. I am not happy, I must say this morning, about that ring fencing that is happening. It's just as though we are going to allow the banks have their free will again without control. And it comes with implications. I mean, I remember 2008 when you were talking about, I remember the big scandal of, the nationalization of Northern Rock then. And what happened around that time? What happened to Lloyds, TSB, and a couple of other banks? Isn't it too hasty? Because, since then, on the American side, they're taking a lot of decisions to be able to create buffers. I think they put up a law called Dodd-Frank as regards that. Now you are having them do this in the UK. Shouldn't we tread with caution? And I also saw a story recently that the Chinese government is trying to bring in Jack Ma's Alibaba into the semiconductor war with the Americans to be able to buffer their semiconductor base and things like that. But there's also a story in the Financial Times that say for the very first time, I think they had seen Jack Ma somewhere in Japan. He'd been in Japan for 6 months. He's been collecting arts and things like that. Is there a possibility that he might be coming back soon? Because if the Chinese government wants to really have that semiconductor war, they need strong leadership at Alibaba. Just two questions.
I agree with you. I mean, it's fascinating to see what Jack Ma's next move will be. As you say, he's been in relative isolation, hasn't he, for quite a while. I mean, what was it now? How many months ago was it we were reporting when he was last seen? Maybe 6 or 7 months. I can't really remember. But yes, I mean, I agree with you. I think it would be very interesting to see an industrialist, an entrepreneur like Jack Ma coming back to exactly what China wants. And that would be a good sign as far as China is concerned, because, as I keep saying, we have no particular way in which it's going. As far as ring fencing is concerned, yeah, I think that was, very much again bolting the stable door after the horse had gone. But since then, I mean, it has to be said that banks have been a lot more aware of the kind of capital cushions that they need. What this is doing is releasing them for having two separate pots, and also the fact that that the government wants London to be a hub of crypto, but not private asset crypto. This is fiat-backed crypto, which the central banks actually want. And you know what? I mean, I'm with you in terms of caution. Certainly, I feel though that things need to move on, and if what the government wants to do is see the City of London as being friendly to overseas banks, as it once was, and it was what is no longer after 2008. But now they're hoping to change that, and I think if the financial sector gets bigger, yeah, that's a good thing. What I'm absolutely with you on is caution. and I think they understand what the risks are.
Okay, today Jerome Powell is going to give a speech at the Brookings Institution, and many investors are looking forward to that in terms of signs that they may see with regard to what the Central Bank of the U.S. is likely to do at its December meeting. Will it raise again, having done so 4 times, by 0.75 percentage points, or will it do 0.5 percentage points? Whether it pauses or it adopts a pivot will have implications, of course. And then today, we're going to have economic data on labor and other details, and consumer data also in the U.S. What are we likely to be hearing from Mr. Jerome Powell, considering the fact that the U.S. stock market, Wall Street, has been flat out of expectations of any indications that they may get from Jerome Powell? That's why you mentioned crypto. Well, many of these crypto, exchanges have been declaring bankruptcy. Some of them are saying, they are trying to just suspend operations. BlockFi has said it has suffered a lot as a result of FTS. Is there a connection? Is there a likely connection between the crisis in that sector and the fact that in the last 3 weeks or so, about 3 top figures, in the crypto space have died? The latest one dying in a helicopter crash, 53-year-old Telan, Russian. Could there be any connection beyond the volatility that we've been talking about? And finally, Elon Musk. Twitter now says since November 23, they've stopped, checking for COVID misinformation. By 2020-2021, Twitter removed over 12,000 accounts. Now those over 12,000 accounts are going to come back. And online safety experts, yesterday we talked about online safety, are saying, look, this is going to lead to a lot of hate information, disinformation, on Twitter. And 62,000 suspended accounts in general, including that of Donald Trump, have been restored. Okay, Elon Musk says he's interested in free speech, but there are questions about the extent of free speech, if it is going to do harm. What do you think?
Well, as I keep saying, free speech comes with a cost. I wouldn't get my medical information from Twitter. Thank you very much indeed. Nor would I actually get it from the central health authorities. Where now, I was reading over the weekend that some of the ways that and the World Health Organization in particular had actually stopped proper information coming out about where COVID actually started and how it started, and whether it actually was a leak from a lab in Wuhan and all the rest of it. It's very difficult. So I would actually not be taking any medical information whatsoever from social media sites like Twitter. No, I certainly would not. As far as that's concerned, I mean, what we're seeing with Twitter is a fight with Apple, and Musk is attempting to delineate that particular fight. The main thing that he seems to be objecting about is the $30 is a 30% 30% charge on all sales. Well, hard luck. If you want to go to an app store and you want to go to a store and they sell your products, then pretty obviously the store is going to take a cut of what you actually sell as a result of being on that store with the kind of distribution that Apple actually has. I'm not going to one side or the other. I'm just saying that that's real life. But as far as taking health information from social media sites, well, if you want to do that, that's absolutely fine. Personally, I would not. One of the great detectives of our era said that he, or was it a she? Could have been a she. Does not believe in coincidences. Well, I don't know whether this is true about the 3 bosses of cryptocurrencies actually dying, within the. I mean, it could be an accident. Who knows? I don't believe in coincidences. Then again, I don't believe in conspiracy theories either. So you take your choice about that. And as far as the Fed's concerned, well, I mean, what do you want me to say about that? The guess is between 0.5 and 0.75%. Whether or not whether or not the Cyber Monday sales will push Jay Powell into saying something slightly more hawkish, anybody's guess, quite honestly. I wouldn't worry too much about it, nor would I worry about the stock market. What it's all about at the moment is cost of living, and that doesn't matter where you are in the world. It's how much you're prepared to pay for your energy costs, and whether or not that takes a big gouge out of your disposable income. That's where most families are struggling right now in the world. Equities, forecasts, big figures, to be absolutely honest, don't exist.
Well, thank you very much, Michael Olsen. Now, for business updates across the African continent, Rotus Odiri joins us now.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning to all our viewers. RT200, of course, the forum that was put together by the Central Bank biannual. Lots of information that was, dispersed there from the Central Bank Governor, Godwin Emefiele, including the fact that about $4.9 billion has been brought in, repatriated from these non-oil exports. Let's take a look at some of those figures. I think it was 58% versus the 3.1 billion that was brought in 2021. And then also, of course, he talked about the rebates, which is the incentive mechanism for non-oil exporters, about 81 billion of that so far. As been said, he's still appealing to the, because there again, the monetary side that's dipping and dabbing into these areas, try to improve the situation. The Minister of Trade and Investment was there. Thankfully, good to see him again. Dr. Godwin Emefiele did appeal to the fiscal side to do all they can to assist the exporters, non-oil exporters, in trying to get those funds out there. Financial inclusion, Central Bank targeting 95%. That's what they're trying to get as far as by 2025. We take a look at some of those figures. I think, so 2025, I think, is where they're trying to get to. That 95%, 2024, excuse me, is where they're trying to get to. If you look at the current picture for Nigeria's financial inclusion, I think only about I think it's 64 or 65%. As of 2020, so we moved from 53.7 to 64.1. So there's still quite a number of Nigerians out there that need to be financially included, and I know the benefits of that as well in terms of pushing the economy forward, because people need access to formal financial products and services. We go to, I think, aviation. The Aero Contractors is expected to return to the skies December the 5th. Remember back in June, or was it July? It was July. They stopped operating due to a number of challenges that they've had. Remember, AMCON, of course, still in control with respect to ARIC and Aero Contractors. The story broke on Nairametrics. Now, it's expected that domestic airfare is supposed to at least come down. We've seen some reports looking at flights with Aero coming back on board, also Dana Air also coming back on board as well. We've actually seen a reduction in domestic flights with respect to different routes here in Nigeria.
Reduction.
Yeah, we've actually, prices are coming down.
Still 160K to Abuja?
Well, that's to Abuja. If you look at it, one-way tickets to, I believe, Lagos to Enugu and also to Port Harcourt as well. Those are coming. So, it's supply now. If you're bringing in more players coming in, so if your Aero is coming in, if your Dana is coming in, there was another, I can't remember the other company, Jet Green or something.
ValueJet.
Yeah. ValueJet, thank you. ValueJet also coming in as well.
Nigerian
we should
Eagles.
see, so we'll keep monitoring that and seeing how that goes. Ghana, not much to say here. They hiked their benchmark interest rates again with respect to where inflation has been climbing to 27% is where they are now. Very interesting. Do you know Ghana is now doing FX rationing? They've now not allocating foreign exchange to imports of certain, I think, rice and so on. That's, remember, when we did it, when Godwin Emefiele, Central Bank, did it here in Nigeria, he was criticized. But now we're seeing with Ghana and the FX crunch that they're facing, they've had to resort to that. Unemployment in South Africa. Bless the South Africans for continuing to be upfront and transparent with their data. Q3 unemployment 32.9, came down slightly from 33.9, I believe. Now, if we take a look at the numbers, if you use the expanded definition of unemployment to include people who have given up looking for work, that number actually jumps to 43.1%. Can you imagine what that number would be for Nigeria if you include people who have just given up on looking for work? If you look at as the global unemployment compared to other nations. So you've got your Iran, who was eliminated from the World Cup yesterday. Costa Rica in the 12% range. Spain, they're still in the World Cup, 12.7. Turkey didn't make it. Tunisia is still in the World Cup, 15.3. Georgia wasn't there, neither was Jordan. But look at the top three there. So South Africa, 32.9. Nigeria, that figure is old. Said it again and again.
2-year-old.
2 years old. Even Namibia is just as bad. I went to their website. Namibia hasn't updated their unemployment in, 3-4 years. So those two figures might as well be much higher. So this data issue, we talked about Black Friday, we've talked about unemployment, we've talked about population. This big data hole it's in Nigeria. I don't know how you can. How do you know how well your child is doing in school if they don't bring the data of your report card to you to review? So I don't know, at this point. But that's our review for the African continent.
I mean, where do we start?
Where do we start?
Let me start from Ghana.
Yeah.
You see, Ghana at some point was doing well, and when people are doing well, you praise them.
Yes.
But Nana Akufo-Addo derailed. I don't know what he allowed to get the better of him. Started making a lot of mistakes.
Like that church. I saw your tweets.
The cathedral is there.
How much is it again?
National Cathedral, 400 million Benjamins.
$100 million for a cathedral.
And 400 million Benjamins. And he says, he promised God that if he wins the election, he'll build a befitting place. So it's the money of the people you would use to build that. So that's the kind of waste that goes on in Africa. And when we have fiscal problems, definitely you know where it's coming from. So I'm not surprised they're raising rates.
Yeah.
The question is, how will Ghana get out of this? Ghana will get out of this when Ghana decides to do the right things.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, one thing that'll probably get you out of this is to spur growth.
Right.
Which is problematic now with high interest rates.
Of course, and high inflation.
High inflation, and people can't get money and all of that. But definitely, you still have to find innovation at a time like this. So this is when the president should bring up his thinking. But at least we thank Nana Akufo-Addo. He's still even addressing the people.
Right.
He's coming out to address and tell them the challenges. We have a country here where nobody comes out to tell us anything. So at least that's good on him.
Yeah.
Secondly, I've always said with this CBN RT200 program, good one, laudable initiative. I'm happy, but it's sad that the CBN now, because others are dropping the ball, CBN having to do too much. But like I said before, Rotus, you see, the export of this produce, predominantly, cash crops and things like that,
I know what you're going to say.
is not where we are going to get the money from.
Value-added goods.
Value-added, and let me even tell you something, because I'm also in the market.
Yeah.
I've seen things.
Yeah.
Indians and other foreigners have even come to cannibalize your local export markets. One of the biggest exporters today are people that are not necessarily from Nigeria. They know your interland, they know your Shaki and other areas where they can get these things to export. And the CBN is doing a lot of work, but it will not clear out the legacy issues.
Yeah.
And where you will find the real money from is value add.
That's true. Yeah.
So even with your agricultural, how can you add value? But the most important export, like I see, is still intellectual capacity exports.
That is correct. I agree.
That a lot of Nigerians are doing. I mean, I was talking to, what is the name the other day? Adewale Yusuf. They have started Talent Q. Now that they are training people through their old school Africa, online, computer programming and all that. And immediately they are getting jobs that are paying over 60,000-70,000 US.
And spending it here.
And spending that money in this economy. So that's the area we should also look into. But kudos to the CBN.
Yeah.
Because they are doing a lot of heavy lifting at a time like this. But like you said, and I'm happy the minister was there.
Yes.
Those legacy problems are still... do we have scanners now at the ports?
Well,
As it will be resolved?
Yeah, no. Human error, human factor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me come in here. First, with Ghana, there's no surprise. I said it yesterday. And, the Bank of Ghana saying we're raising the interest rate. We're, going to restrict access to Forex.
Yeah.
That was foreseeable, considering the fact that this is consistent with the details of the budget proposal that the President of Ghana took to the Ghanaian Parliament. In fact, one of the paragraphs in that appropriation bill, as proposed, was saying that, look, anything that can be produced in Ghana,
Yes.
you can't have access to forex for it. And I guess, you know, it's
Surprise,
just
surprise.
simple common sense, you know, to discourage wastages and people, you know, spending scarce forex on, you know, on things that are available within the economy, and to encourage also productivity within the economy itself. But we'll see how it goes. Ghana is also looking for a lifeline from the IMF.
That is correct.
And you will recall that President Akufo-Addo used to be quoted as saying, Africa does not need aid.
Yes.
I think he said that some time ago in France. And everybody was praising that speech, saying, President Akufo-Addo is speaking for Africa. But here they are in Ghana. You know, Ghana is one of those countries looking for aid, like Malawi, like other countries. I hope there will be lessons that other countries like Nigeria can learn from what is going on in Ghana, where, in fact, next door, as a result of the cost of living crisis that they are having in Ghana, you recall that there were street protests on the streets of Ghana. So if you are faced with that, you know, then of course you have to take basic commonsensical decisions. One of the things they're proposing, they're going to cut salary for a certain category of workers in Ghana. But then let me come to, the fact that we have more players now in the aviation sector. Aero Contractors is coming back. And we are told that NCAA, Civil Aviation Authority, has given the necessary approvals. They shut down in July. Now they're coming back. Okay, then you have, of course, other airlines. Dana Airline, that once suspended its operations, is back. Air Peace is now going to Uyo. There is Value Jet, the new startup in that aviation sector. And the whole point about this is that competition will bring down the prices.
Amen, Doctor.
If you have monopoly, prices will be
go up
on the high side. I read a piece by Etimetum. Etimetum said, Air Peace comes to Uyo, and his whole excitement in that piece is to say that, look, Ibom Air has been dominating that route and charging 90,000 Uyo to Lagos. But now that Air Peace is going there, Air Peace is saying we will charge 50,000 naira on the Lagos-Uyo Lagos route. And immediately, Ibom Air, now Air Peace has not started going yet. Immediately, Ibom Air brought his own Lagos to Uyo price down to 55,000, just 5,000 naira more than Air Peace. And that's what, Etimetum, my former colleague, was celebrating in that piece. And the whole point is that if you have monopoly, people will just cheat people. At a point, to go to Abuja and back, was close to 320,000 naira. At least my last trip, going on that route was over, in fact, it was close to 400,000. Just to go to Abuja, that we used to go to by road with just 10,000 naira in this same country.
Crazy.
So we just hope, of course, that safety considerations, will be paramount, because the number one thing in aviation is safety. Finally, when we discussed the RT200 in the headlines, I linked it with the fact that Nigeria now has an automated system for trade procedures by establishing the Nigerian Trade Information Portal, which is in line with Section 1 of the WTO agreement on trade. And I thought that that's a very important development, because we always talk about data, access to data. So that platform, we hope, will be well managed, will be well designed, will be user-friendly enough that various stakeholders can go there and get information about exports and about opportunities in Nigeria, and that Nigerian missions across the world, will also see how they can help advertise it, so that all this non-oil export and trade generally can be better facilitated. After all, relationship among countries is likely about trade.
Indeed.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Roach.